Welcome out to our weekly Mastermind call. It is, what is it? Wednesday, October 5th. We're already 5 days into this month. I tell you, time just flies. Okay, so what we're going to do with this particular topic is I want to talk about the power of motive. And, there are activities that we do in our doTERRA business, right? So if you think about it, what is it? Think of the things that we're doing. Obviously, the four categories of this maybe fall under finding, teaching, enrolling, and duplicating. There's the 631, which gives us a little bit of direction or a lot of direction as well. But when you think about the activities that we're engaged in, so there's like when you first get started, I imagine that what I would be doing is, hold on, my word. Anyway, so what I would be doing is I would be, first I would be contacting people, right? I'd be reaching out to people, calling them, or talking to them in person. And then there's inviting those people, getting them to come to events, them come to classes. And then I'm teaching those people class. And then after that, I'm enrolling these people. I'm doing membership and business overviews with them. I'm finding my committed builders. I'm mentoring my committed builders, and then I start leading a team, right? So I'm doing monthly events in my area. I'm putting on, I start organizing and managing these types of events. So these are the different things that we're involved in. And what I've noticed is that those who succeed are doing the same activities as those that, maybe I should say it differently. Those who are struggling are trying to do the same activities, or maybe they are doing the same activities as those that are succeeding. But the difference is their motive. Why are they doing the things that they're doing? And so I'm going to open that up a little bit to the mastermind. What is the motive? What have you noticed? So I'm going to frame this in two ways. What do you notice about the motives or the motives of those who are succeeding and the motives of those who are struggling? What's the difference? Star 5 star will raise your hand.
I think you have everybody clueless, Seth. Hey, will you repeat the question again?
Sure. So what I was discussing was the power of motives. So let me give you an idea of what I'm like, let's take this into parenting, right? So let's say that I'm about to parent a child or discipline a child. The difference that makes disciplining a child an experience that can actually bond a parent to the child, and disciplining a child which can actually create wedges and things like that, I don't necessarily think is the activity as much as it is the motive. And so what is the motive behind what it is that you're doing? And so my question was, in doTERRA, there's all these activities that we do in doTERRA. We find, we teach, we enroll, we duplicate, and all the activities that are involved in that. And the question was, there are people who are succeeding in the business, and there are people who are struggling in the business, and the people who are succeeding and struggling are doing the same activities. The difference is their motives for doing those activities. So my question to the mastermind was, what are the motives of those who are succeeding, and what are the motives of those who are struggling? And it would probably be like, especially if you're a little bit higher rank and you have a larger team, you might be able to see it a little bit better because you're seeing it happen. You have pockets where things are really going well and pockets where things are struggling. So that was my question. What are the motives? And let me kind of tell you where this is. I'll just give you some experiences in my life that aren't necessarily doTERRA related, but they make all of the difference. So, for example, when my son was how old was he? He wasn't that old, but he had a problem where he would always be scowling at my wife. And it really hurts Jenny's feelings, right? So like Christian, he would look at her and he'd just give her these evil glares, and he would do it to hurt her because maybe she was, maybe he didn't get what he wanted, or I don't know, what, everything. So she comes to me and she goes, I don't know what to do with this. So I sat down Christian and I said, Christian, here's the deal. You can't do that. That's your mom. That's my wife. She needs to be treated like an angel. And so you can't do that. So here's the deal. If you glare at your mom, I'm going to give you a spanking. All right? And so we laid the ground rules. And so then one day I go and we get in the car. We're about to go to some piano recital. I think it was actually his piano recital. And we get in the car, and Jenny looks back there, and she goes, "Oh, Christian." And my son was, and I go, "What is?" And then she looked at me, and she's like, "Oh crap, I shouldn't have said anything because she doesn't even want to be disciplined." And so I go, "Christian, were you glaring at mom?" And he's like, and he didn't say anything, and I just was like, "Well, when we get home, I'm gonna give you your spanking." And so we go to the recital. It lasts, a half hour, an hour. We go and get ice cream afterwards. I'm sure everything is just fine. We come home and we walk in the door, and I'm like, all right, Christian, come on upstairs and let's get this over with. So he walks upstairs, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to spank this kid. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is spank him. And so I'm just sitting there going, and then the thought came to me, no, you told him this, and so there has to, like, your word has to mean something. And he has to learn, like, he is going to base his, I started getting a realization that he is going to start forming his opinion on the nature of God based upon how I parent. And I realized I have to follow through. I have to follow through. So I'm sitting there talking to this kid, he's probably 10 years old, and I'm like, Christian, I don't want to do this. But here's the thing. I told you that I was going to do this, and then you did it. And so now if I don't do it, then you're never going to believe that I mean what I say. And you have to know this. And so we're having this discussion, and he's looking up at me like, oh, Dad, I don't want to do it. And so then he gets me. I said, so go ahead and lean. I'm like, lean over my knee. So he's like, okay. And he has his hands back covering his butt, And, and I said, Christian, you got to remove your hands. And so then he takes his hands away and he goes, okay, just do it. And then, and I just wanted to like give him a little pat on the butt, like just a little pat. And I had this impression, no, he has to realize this is real. So I give him a couple good swats. And he starts crying. I pick him up in my arms and I'm holding him, and we're both crying, and I'm like, do you realize why I had to do that? And here's the thing. That experience actually caused us to become closer. And yet I know people who do the exact same activity and it hurts the relationship. And so anyway, that's just kind of, I don't know why I shared that particular experience, but my point is that even in discipline, if the motive, like my motives were, I needed to show him that my word meant something, and that I don't go back on my word, and that integrity is important, and that treating his mother was important, and that it was in his best interest that this happened, and that it would have been worse for me to break my word than to say, oh, I just love you so much, I'm going to skip the consequence. I knew he had to know that his decisions had consequences. But my point is that all of my motive was for the benefit of him. And on the other hand, my motive could have been because I was ticked off, because I was angry,
right,
because because of all those types of things. And so when you look at your doTERRA business, there's all sorts of activities that we're engaged in. And I'll tell people this all the time, that when you're talking to someone, it doesn't matter so much what you say. It matters what you're thinking when you say it more than what you actually say. So you could have the words down exactly, but if you have the wrong thoughts or the wrong motives, then it won't communicate. 93% of, let's see, what is it? I think it's 93% of all communication is not verbal. 7% of communication is actually the exact words you say. The other 93% has to do with your tone, with your body language, and tone and body language are a manifestation of your motive. Why are you doing what you're doing? And so that's the question to the mastermind. We're all engaged in the same activities, but what is the motive behind those who are succeeding, and what is the motive behind those who are struggling? And maybe you've had times where you've succeeded and you've struggled. What's been the difference in your motives? All right, Tiana, you have your hand raised. I just unmuted your line. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So when I think of my own personal story and the differences between the successes I've had and the failures I've had and this journey that I'm on, I am beginning to notice very directly that when I have a motive of service and of focusing on the needs of the people that I am touching and that come into my life, that those people respond much more openly to me and the ideas and thoughts that I have regarding oils and how it can bless their lives. I had a validation moment about a month ago where I was just seeking truly to help a friend who had been in a really bad accident. And I ended up giving the oils to one of their friends because they were just bombarded with coping with this accident. And so I ended up meeting with the friend of a friend and giving her the oils, and then she transferred them to my friend. And she got back to me and she's like, Tiana, she's like, you seem like you have such a pure heart. And let me tell you, to have someone recognize my true intentions for what they really were bless me tremendously. And in turn, like, she was so much, she's like, you know what? I know a lot of people who do oils, but I want to talk to you because I feel like you have a pure heart and you know what you're talking about. And so it was just one of those moments that was an example of how motive can directly impact how I go about building my business. And I'm trying to disperse that among the people that I talk to, that I'm trying to help through this process, through my own discovery process, and show them that if we're doing these actions with the purpose of serving those around us, that things will be different.
Yes. So you're talking about having a service mentality. Yes. And if you are doing things with the intention of serving those that you're giving the oils to and things like that, that's making a difference.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Mary Sisti, what are your thoughts?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I really like this topic because I'm a true believer in my motives, and I feel it and I see it every day. I put my motives, or I feel like my motives they run very parallel to my why, and I look at that every day in the mirror, and I believe it in my heart. And when I believe it in my heart, I'm more clear on my motives, and people see my motives through my expression. So to be clear again, so my motive, for example, I've got two of them. So one of them is changing the face of healthcare, one drop at a time. And my next motive is to develop great and powerful leaders and influential leaders at that. So that's pretty much all I've been doing for 3 solid years, building doTERRA, and I haven't stopped. because my motives are so much greater than my fears. And when I see myself reverting back, because you know how doTERRA is, it's an up and down spiral. I call it the doTERRA roller coaster of life. And when I'm in my high, and when I'm up there on that roller coaster, I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my heart that my motives are true and pure. And again, it's about the serving. I like what she said. It's all about serving others. And when I exhibit my motives, when I show it to the people in my classes, when I show it to people in my trainings, that's when I can hold true to my motives, which is,
Yes.
it helps develop great and powerful leaders. Like it shows and it starts to ripple. Like a stone in a pond, it just starts to go forward. But when I stop believing that, or when I take time, take time away from that, that's when it starts to stop. Does that make sense?
When you lose focus on your motives, which is your why, that's when it starts to stop. But as you keep focused on the mark, then your business flourishes.
Right. And so, and the opposite of that, when I stop, that's when it kind of starts to fall, or it starts to stay stagnant.
Why do you stop? What causes you to stop? Do you know what I mean?
I feel like fear has always, like, it's been ingrained with humankind. I mean, it's developed over my life, and it's hard to stop that ripple. I mean, even that is really hard in itself to overcome. And it's almost like it's a daily habit for me to look into the mirror and just say, look, I know who I am. I know my mission. And I'm going to spread it to everybody. I have to do that, or else the fears will get to me. It's just a human nature. It's a human, I guess I should say it's an instinct almost. It's ingrained. But when you look at the fear and you say, hey, this fear is not above my motives, my true motives, to become a better person and a better.
Give me an example of the fear. Give me an example of what you're afraid of.
Oh gosh, this is great. So I've always been a fear of public speaking. To be a part of in a spotlight, I should say. I've always been the one kind of like that, sitting back, contemplating, having great things to say, but then not wanting to say it. The confidence over time, in my 30s now versus me in my 20s. When I see builders in the 20s, I can see the fear a lot more as opposed to me, people in the 30s and 40s, because they've experienced the fear. They've kind of looked fear in the face and they've analyzed it and overcome it more than their motives. And so I feel like that's a huge difference. So I like the fact that you can look fear in the face, but then you can also look at your motives and see that is greater than what is holding you back. Once you overcome that, then, man, just watch out and see how your business goes after that.
That's so fascinating. I agree with you because it's kind of interesting. What you're just for me, it's the fear of what other people think. That's probably one of the biggest fears that you get when you're involved in this. Like if fear is going to start to overcome me, it's happening when I'm concerned what other people are thinking, and I just have to. That's where I've got to get past that. Okay, good. All right, so
Hey, Seth.
so thank you for Courtney, go ahead.
Hey, this is Courtney. I just want to add on top of what Mary's saying. I've been sitting here processing and thinking about all of this. I like that she brought up, her why. She's saying her motive is. But
Whoa, you're breaking up a lot, Court.
can you hear me?
You there?
Can you hear me?
No, I can barely hear you.
Is this better?
Keep coming. You're getting closer. Yeah, that's better.
How's this?
Maybe not. Okay, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, all right. Don't move. Don't breathe. Anyways, I got thinking about just even how, because Mary brought up your why and your motive in teaching a class if you know your why, or just even enrolling somebody, right? So, like, I remember that there's times when my motive for that month might be just pushing volume, right? Like, I kind of lost sight of really empowering somebody, but it's like I just need volume this month, right? And that comes across.
Uh-huh.
And when I sit here and I look at, the people on my team that are on loyalty rewards and the people who aren't, I bet that majority of them that aren't are those people that your motive was just to enroll, just to have volume that month, instead of really relying on that service and your why and your mission of doTERRA, right? Because then your motive is, I'm trying to empower you, and they get that, and you take the time to follow up with them better, that they're getting on loyalty rewards. So I think that it's really important that just your motive in enrolling somebody will make a difference if they're even getting on loyalty rewards or not the next month, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
I mean, something so simple, but I see that all the time. Are you in the business of just selling oils, just pushing volume, or really empowering people? And people will notice that motive, and it will make a big difference with your business.
Yes, exactly. So here's a perfect example of what you're describing. When you teach a class, if in teaching the class your motive is to sell product, then you might sell product maybe. But if your motive in teaching the class is to empower the people in the class, like if that's the motive, then you have a totally different experience because you're trying to teach and educate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And
people
actually,
will feel that. They don't feel like they're being sold. You know what I mean? They feel like this person
and you don't feel like
cares
you're
about
selling.
me. And exactly. So it's better on both ends. It's more receptive on both ends. You walk away feeling better. They walk away feeling better. And it's just a completely different experience for everyone involved, And so I just sit here and think about that. I'm like, yeah, how many times have we, approached with the wrong motive on just even enrolling somebody, and they bought one oil retail. You never hear from them again,
Right. Yes, or the people who, you keep on hearing these stories of people that say, yeah, they signed me up and I never heard from them again. And it's like, well, right, because they were not interested in empowering you. They were interested in selling, in moving some oil or moving volume. So, so with that said, because I think that the motives behind what it is that you're doing make all of the difference. In fact, to Mary's point, they make it possible for you to do the work in a lot of cases. Like some people are so scared to call somebody, and it's typically when their motives are, well, I've got to call people because I'm trying to reach my goal and all these things. But when you shift your motive to who in this world can I help and serve and teach, who in this world needs, who in this world would be open to learning about essential oils for the benefit of their family, then all of a sudden the work itself is actually easier to do as well.
And you think about it.
People.
Go ahead.
Yep. Well, I was just going to say everybody knows the story of, when I was talking to my friend's mom and her son passed away and I said, can I come and teach you about essential oils? And then she said, in the class, she said, this is so empowering. And could you imagine if I had this as a young mother, the difference this would have made? Like, all of a sudden, I drive back after, home that night, and I'm thinking, my word, what if she had this as a young mother? What would have happened in her life? I started realizing that a lot of her kids would have, like, her son probably wouldn't have died. All these different things I was contemplating. And then it was like my motives changed completely, and I felt obligated. I felt like I had an obligation to share this message with as many people as I could. And all of a sudden, the motive shifted and the work became easy, and success became easy too, because they knew when I was teaching them that I had one motive, and that was to bless their life. as
Right.
opposed to
Well, and I was just
reach
thinking
my
about this,
goal.
you know, as committing builders too. How many times is our motive for us to find a builder, for us to reach rank, or for us to reach a certain goal, or for us to fill in a hole, or for us, right? But, you know, if your motive behind, you know, committing a builder is for their lives to be changed by the physical, emotional, financial aspects doTERRA has to offer, again, it changes it. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing
Right.
as what you're talking about in sharing that message with people, and that also goes into, you know, sharing the business opportunity with them. And if you can shift that motive to not just your financial gain, but to what it will do for that family or that individual, again, it's like, how do you not give them that opportunity? You know, it goes back to like what you're saying about you felt like obligated, like I have to do this, you know. And I've noticed that when I've been so focused on me and my goals, you know, I don't easily share the business aspects of doTERRA, you know, but recently I just committed 3 builders last month and got them enrolled, and you know, that shifted for me because I realized it's just, again, you like have that, you know, aha moment where you're like, this isn't about me and what I want. You know, they need this, and that motive changes, and it became easy. It was easy for me to start talking to people about the business again, you know, and there you go, 3 builders in a month.
Right, exactly. Rod, you have your hand raised.
Yes. This probably a little different angle on it as well, but because our profession is network marketing, sometimes the customer or the prospect has an assumption of what your motive is. And so this it becomes more important for us because it's assumed by your prospects oftentimes that your motive isn't what it is. And so an example of that is I flew to Ireland, and it was kind of in the wintertime, and there was one other gentleman and his son on the shuttle bus after we got off of the airplane. And so naturally they asked me what I did, and I said I'm a large distributor, an essential oil distributor with doTERRA essential oils, and then the conversation turned to network marketing, and he immediately said, "Oh, you're one of those guys." And I said, "Well, what are one of those guys?" And he said, "One of those guys that runs around, talks on the stage and manipulates people to get into their phony business scam kind of thing." And so I said, "Well, that's an interesting perspective." I go, "What do you mean by that?" "Well, you run around pushing no value, just trying to play on people's emotions and things like that." And I said, "Well, that's an interesting perspective." And I said, "But the reality is my business, what I do is I offer value to my customers, for a solid value proposition, and it's just like any other traditional business in that regard." And anyway, I spent a little bit of time enlightening him, and of course, I don't know if I changed his mind too much, but he at least goes, "Oh, okay, well, I didn't, I'd never looked at it like that before." And so I at least put the seed in that it was a legitimate thing. But he assumed that my motive was all for my own personal gain. And because my motive is not that, I have a larger vision and a larger quest of what we're doing, and a lot of purpose behind what we're doing. I wasn't shaken because of my prospect's assumption of what my motive was, and I was able to calmly and easily rebut his comment. But if my motive had been unpure, if in fact my only intention was to create personal gain and share the message of manipulation around, then it would have been easy to shake me with those kinds of comments, which a lot of times we'll find ourselves, if we have impure motives in what we're attempting to do and somebody calls us on it, a lot of times that's where we start to retreat and we lack confidence and we kind of back away and, "Oh, yeah, I guess that, network marketing is a bad thing or whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't do that," kind of thing. Well, that's a reflection of our intention, of our motive, not being on a spot that allows for personal growth, which is to genuinely have an intention to provide value for people using the solution that we have as doTERRA. Now, it's great to have a financial goal because obviously, if freedom wasn't one of the benefits, which is directly related to the business, it would be difficult for us to engage in it as heavily as we do. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because the financial well-being that's provided is as powerful as the health well-being that the product provides. So it's a great thing. And so my motive, even though I intend to build a fantastic business that has great revenues and profits, at the same time, I do that by understanding that I provide an incredible value and incredible business opportunity, and I understand that my product can provide great benefits. And I always tell people there's two things I know for certain that allow me to move forward. One is that if you engage in my product and you're on the loyalty reward program and you take full advantage of the membership to get free product credits and to get the health benefit of the product, that your life will be dramatically changed in a very positive way in terms of overall improvement to your health and wellness and well-being. I know that for sure. The second thing I know for sure is that if you engage in the business with me as one of my partners, that you will have the opportunity to transform your life by forwarding a mission of purpose and liberating yourself financially as well. And so because I know those two things, it allows me to present myself with a really strong posture, and it's very difficult for people to shake me with off-the-wall comments or criticisms of our industry.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, it's interesting because you're right. The motive of personal financial freedom is extraordinarily powerful to get you to act and to start building this business, and that can be a very strong motive. And yet at the same time, there needs to be the right kind of motive at the right time while building your business for the right activities. So, for example, one of the things that Rod, you brought to the team is the concept of lifting and liberating others. I think that if you have the motive of lifting others when you are, teaching classes and things like that, or even, I don't know, there's just if my motive is to empower the people I'm teaching an oil class to, I'll get better results than if my motivation for teaching that class is financial freedom. And so it's like you have to be able to put on the right hats at the right time for the activities that you're doing, and making sure that your motives are right in the right time to get the right result.
Right, and that's understanding what the best solution is, or the strongest need that the person you're presenting to has. So, for example, if I've run into somebody that is so tired of their job and just beat up by the corporate rat race and in a backsliding and depression and despair, then that's a great opportunity to say, hey, have you considered the income opportunity of doTERRA? Have you considered alternate sources of income for your home? I mean, these are great, worthy times. And so I think when it comes to motive, there's two factors. One is your cause worthy? And two, can you back up your claim? And that has to do with worthiness of your or the value of your offering. And so when those things exist, then you can have a lot of confidence, even if the motive is to build a great business.
Right. And I think Tiana kind of touched on it in the very beginning when she said, if I have a service motive, if you're trying to serve people regardless of their need, maybe their need is financial, maybe it's health, maybe it's both, but if it's service, if your mentality and your motive is service, then that's going to take you a long way. Erica De Benedictis, what are your thoughts?
Yes. Hey. Yes, I am wondering how you reconcile or how you keep that motive at the same time you listen to people like Jack Canfield and people who are talking about vision boards and envisioning what your life's going to look like 10 years from now. So, how do you do both of those at the same time? Because those are both kind of opposite mentalities.
Well, how do you mean that? Like, so what do you see as being opposite mentalities?
Well, what I mean is it's kind of like I'm reading, like I love Networking as a Contact Sport. Rod recommended that at one point. Another book, The Go-Giver. Books that are like helping me remind myself that I need to have a service mentality. And yet at the same time, this other thing of shooting for your goals and looking at where you want to be, a year from now or whatever. To me, it seems kind of hard to be thinking about I need to go on out and helping people because I need to be reaching my goals, and I need to be reaching out to people because they need the oils.
I got a comment for that, Seth.
Go ahead.
Okay, excellent. And so this is a great point. In sometimes sometimes our intention, or sometimes inadvertently, we tend to separate things and assume that one thing has to be bad because the other thing is good. So in other words, the correlation of vision boards and your personal goals should be directly related to the service that you provide through your doTERRA business and not opposite of. In other words, to serve one does not mean that you have to give up the other or shun the other. So, for example, you have to be personally motivated as well. There's your motive, and then there's your motivation. And I think these are two distinctly different things. Like I have a motive to lift and liberate the world, and I'm motivated by being financially free and liberated myself and having the health benefits that doTERRA offers. And so I'm motivated by those two things. I'm motivated by the idea of what life could be like as a presidential diamond and my ability to serve on a greater scale. And of course, with that comes, there's pretty significant jumps between Blue Diamond and Presidential Diamond in terms of the bonus pools and other things that happen financially. And so I also have big dreams that are prepared to meet those new realities. I think it creates, for me, it's always creating a worthy purpose and permission for having great dreams and visions. So, for example, if you're looking at your vision board, you're probably just asking yourself, are those dreams worthy? So, for example, is it worthy for you to have a nice place to live? Is it worthy for you to have reliable transportation? Is it worthy for you to have a vacation home? Is it worthy for you to be able to pay for college for your kids? Is it worthy for you to be able to contribute to different charitable outreaches or even form your own? Are these things worthy? Are the things you're putting on your board elevating you? And so I think these are ways that having strong goals and having a strong vision is a fantastic way to motivate yourself so that you can go out and serve at a greater space. Because I think sometimes if we believe that these things are opposite or that one is bad so that the other can be good, then what happens is we keep ourselves small and we play small. And, for example, I was sitting down with one of our team members one time that had a really small set of needs, and unfortunately she only would allow her businesses to grow to meet her needs instead of viewing what the world or what her capabilities would be like on a 10 times grander scale. So, for example, if it's only worthy for you to have $4,000,
the host has joined the conference,
and that's your space of worthiness, then you will not allow yourself to expand beyond that level of service. But if you can expand your mindset or your vision into a $40,000 a month or a $400,000 a month, and you can imagine your reach and capacity at that level, then that starts to show you that how you can be service. You can have a service value motive, and yet be motivated by how large you can expand your dreams and visions. And so. But anyway, that's my thought. I view those things as pertinently interconnected and not diametrically opposed.
So the
Erica, did that help?
Yeah, I think what you're saying, Rod, is the things that are on your vision board are the things that set you into action to into moving towards those service things.
Exactly. Because anybody that's right, yeah, anybody that's motivated to serve people, the motivating factor should be to serve big and not at a minimal level. Because serving at a minimal level doesn't that only helps a few. It only helps a little bit. But serving at a big level, having a big vision and a big purpose, that's inspiring, and that helps many people. That motivates thousands of people. And so I think your vision board is an important part of helping you see how things could be and the reach that you could have.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we have a 785 area code. I just unmuted your line. What is your name and your question or comment?
Hi, this is Allie Baker from Kansas, and my mind has just been racing during this whole call, and so I'm sorry if it feels disjointed because I'm trying to filter through everything. For me, making sure that I keep my intentions pure is if I'm in the mindset of who can I help today or who can I serve today, as opposed to, well, how is me talking to someone about oils going to help me advance in rank or get more volume or hit my first power of 3 or something like that? Because when I start thinking about what the gain is for me, then I'm not in that place where I can serve other people, because I'm only looking inward about, well, how does this profit me? And but instead, when I go into the day with the mindset of, well, who can I look out for that might need these, and how can I try to help bless their lives through it, I'm able to pick up on those experiences and I'm able to see those people and their names are able to come to my mind, if that makes sense, because I'm in the right place mentally. Because I feel like those opportunities to serve and find those people are all around us all the time. But if we're not actively seeking them and searching for them, we're going to pass right by them. And so for me, that kind of helps. And I've had a few experiences this week where I have invited friends to come to classes of mine. And the response that I've gotten back from them has been like they're burnout on people approaching them about doTERRA specifically. They're just really against all of it. They're tired of how many people have come after them about it or how many people have tried to convert them. They've actually said that. And at first, eat a popsicle, go for it. Sorry, my kids just got home. And so at first it kind of like, it took me back because I was like, oh man, that's not where I'm coming from. But that was the mindset that the person I invited was coming into it from, that I was trying to hassle them for money or I was trying to get them to buy stuff from me. And instead, I truly was just coming from a place of, hey, I'm just inviting you to learn about this. I just want to help you make decisions about whether or not you find value in this for you. And also running through my mind was, who have you been talking to that's in doTERRA? Because I want to know how they've been approaching it. And so for me, it's also been highly motivating to make sure that my intentions are always the purest of how can this benefit you, so that as I'm planting those seeds, that people aren't going to get a bad taste in their mouth. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So for me,
fantastic.
That's been highly motivating to make sure
yes,
that I'm
and
not creepy or pushy.
Perfect. Allie, I'm just gonna mute your line just to control the background noise, okay? Okay, so let me just, I think that what we've learned from the call is that there are a lot of motives that drive our actions, but that without fail, the idea of serving, empowering, and lifting others gets the best results when you're engaged in the contacting and teaching activities in the business. And so I want to kind of shift a little bit now and start asking a little bit different question. which is, what have you found to be the best motives for the different phases or the different hats that you wear in your business? So, for example, I think that it's very powerful to have a motive of total financial freedom to give you the motivation to get out there and serve others, for example. But I don't know that that's the best motivation when you actually are calling people, as opposed to the service mentality like has been discussed multiple times. So if you were to think about the activities that we do, look at it chronologically, right? So when you first get started, you start reaching out and teaching people. You invite them to come to a class to teach them how to use the oils to get them enrolled. So finding and teaching and enrolling. And from what I'm hearing on this call, the best results that we've had, and I'll say that for me personally, is about as I have reached out with the concern for others and help and wanting to empower them to know how to take care of their families naturally. When that comes across, then this becomes very, very powerful, and people feel that, and they're willing to come and learn, and they're willing to, and when you teach, it actually comes across as educating instead of selling, and empowering, and them enrolling takes care of itself. In fact, I've had people come to me and they say, "Oh, you must be pretty good at sales. Is that what you do? You're selling the oils?" And I'd always look at them a little puzzled, because I'd kind of go, "Actually, I don't feel like I sell at all. I just feel like I go around teaching people, and then they buy if they want to make it a part of their life, they buy it. But I don't feel like I'm selling it." Now, that's all up to enrolling, right? And I would even say even doing membership overviews and things like that, that's all there. What have you found to be your most powerful motives when you engage in committing builders and in mentoring people who have decided to build, if that makes sense? So what is the powerful motive that you can have when you're committing a builder and when you're mentoring those that want to build? All right, Jerry Chandler, I just unmuted your line. Go ahead.
Hey, Seth. There's been something that's been kind of weighing on my mind through this whole call, and that is that in my experience, I believe that motive duplicates so fast, and that's why you have to be so intentional about it. And so, like when I'm mentoring and working with my leaders, my motive is to identify their why, or assist them in identifying their why, to believe in them until they believe in themselves. And that's something that, I don't know, maybe a gift that I have, that I genuinely believe in people. I believe in their potential. I believe I can see who they can become, and I have a desire to help them discover that for themselves. But I've found that if I'm not intentional with my motive and I start getting distracted with other motives that are more me-oriented, then my motive duplicates like wildfire. And so I
good or bad, right?
Good or bad. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think the bad stands out a little bit faster. But I think if it's the whole conversation of being intentional with our business. And as we're intentional with our business, we're intentional with our motive. That's going to be another thing that duplicates. And so when I'm working with my leaders, I intentionally go at each individual mentoring call with a belief in who they can become and a desire to help them with whatever their why is. Because, I have a wide variety of builders on my team, and some, it is for financial freedom. That is why they're doing it. But for others, it's for personal growth, or it's for, it's a very specific goal. And sometimes it's not about the money at all. Sometimes it's just about being a part of a community and having a support team to live life with, and so this is something that they get to do, and it helps pull them out of their comfort zone and expand their talents and develop new talents. And so I don't know if that goes along. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, I guess I should say, but
it is what
I just feel like it has to be intentional. and I feel like it duplicates, and so we have to be very conscious of it.
Absolutely. Here's probably the best example of what you're describing. So basically in doTERRA there are two great leaders, and it's like Natalie Goddard and Elise Chedevy, and they have massive teams. And Elise holds the highest rank in the company, but Natalie Goddard has the biggest check in the company. And you kind of sit there and go, what makes Natalie Goddard so special? And I will tell you that the thing, in my opinion, is that you cannot be around her and not know that she loves you. Period. And that her motivation for everything she does is love. She loves you, period. And that love, it actually does duplicate, like you're saying. It creates this community of love and concern for others. And then you reach out and you try to help those people, and your motive is love. And as you call people up and invite them, you do it because you love them. And when you teach a class, you're teaching them why? Because you love them. And then when you're signing them up and enrolling them, why are you enrolling them? Because you love them and you want them to have the oils. And why do you even teach people about the oils? Because you love the oils. And why do you want to build a business? It's because you love the people that you're going to grow, and you're going to and it's just this love is the motivation for everything, and that is duplicated so well on her team that I think that's why she has the largest check in the company, regardless of rank. Jacqueline Child, what are your thoughts?
Did you say Jacqueline Child? Oh, sorry.
I did.
All of a sudden it cut out. Okay. So this, I'm totally crying. It's ridiculous. But this has really hit home to me in a massive way because, So when I started doTERRA, whoever's heard my story knows that I was physically incapable of really functioning. And as a result, mentally, I wasn't functioning. And so when Seth and Heidi came to talk to me and I began this journey, my complete motivation, totally and completely, was that I knew what it felt like to think at 32 that your life was going to not be anything because you couldn't walk up the stairs at night. And you were in pain constantly. And so that was my motive. Because how could I not tell people? And so, because it was very hard for me to be perceived as a salesman, I always told myself, whoever I care about, I'll share it with. And that was my motive, and it took me far. It took me through, if anyone's heard my story, a husband who hated doTERRA with a passion. He doesn't now. He's super supportive now, but it took me through everything, like having small children and homeschooling at the same time and trying to work this all out. It took me through everything. Well, then, as I was listening to this, I realized I heard a story recently, and I remember at leadership convention that Boyd Truman had told how he and his wife, when they were building doTERRA, they got to a point where they were really money-oriented, and they were thinking, how can we make money? And that's when they really stalled out. And then once they realized, no, we have a much bigger vision, they were able to push themselves up to the rank they're at now, which I think their highest is double Presidential Diamond. And I had totally forgotten that. I heard that recently, and I realized that I had done exactly what he had described. And I remember hearing that and thinking, oh, how could that happen? And it wasn't even a bad intention. It's just I really got money-oriented thinking when my husband started wanting to retire and join me in doTERRA, a worthy goal, right? Absolutely worthy. He hates his job. But I tell you, when we got into that mindset and it became such a dominating factor,
that's when we started slipping in rank. And our paychecks started not being as large. And it was, a series of different things and I remember what I was thinking as everyone was talking, I thought, I have been really, like, I look at, because of what we went through to get our education, my husband went through 8 years of school, I went through 5, we worked our tails off so we wouldn't accrue debt, we were having kids, I mean, we had 3 kids by the time he finished his master's program and a mortgage. So we were, I know what it takes to develop the opportunity to make good income. And so I was shocked to see the IndoTerra, like, you follow the 631 schedule, like, you've got it. Like, you can build your business. You might not reach diamond quickly, but you will reach it eventually if you do it on a consistent basis. And so I had, I was shocked and amazed, like, this is crazy that we can make money while we're building this business and that it actually only takes this effort. And it's not that it didn't take me massive amounts of effort. It's just I know what it takes, like, to even be able to begin to build, make money because of our educational background. And so, and what we went through to just receive the opportunity to make money, just absolute torture.
Yeah.
We were like, I have been approaching people and especially moms like, look at this is all it takes and then your husband can retire, and yes, that's true. But recently, and I think it was really the Diamond Retreat started it, and then convention, it's like I realized all of a sudden it hit me that the product is my motive. Sharing the product, getting it into every house. I had almost completely forgotten that. I'm ashamed to admit it, but it really and it just occurred when all of a sudden I have all my kids on the supplements. I even chop up a supplement for my baby and pour IQ Mega in his mouth, and now I'm pouring PB Plus Junior in his mouth. I mean, we are so healthy that I think I forgot what it was like before. And I also have really, I love the EDGE system because it's duplicatable and I'm totally for it. But I've also heard in trainings like you need to be spontaneous. That keeps the energy going. And I realized that I had totally missed what I'm passionate about, which is emotional issues, because that's what I graduated with in college, and I was actually a counselor for a while. And so I realized I am passionate about helping people on an emotional level, and I was thinking about my husband's family and my family, and it is littered on both sides with people with mental and emotional health issues. I mean, on both sides, it's severe. And I was looking at my children and thinking, especially with what crazy parents they have, how well they handle things on an emotional level. And it just occurred to me oh my gosh, I have forgotten that the product is what motivated me in the beginning, getting this into homes. Because we're so healthy because we're using the product. and so I guess what I'm trying to say in all this jumble is that motive is more important than you can imagine. It does, like everyone's saying, it absolutely duplicates, and it absolutely, now that the last couple of months, my whole motive has been the product and what it can do for people rather than, hey, look at this, you can make your family financially free. It's changed everything. I feel like we're just magnets. Our whole organization is for new builders. And that for a while there, I was listening to Think and Grow Rich, some lectures by Napoleon Hill, and he said that you could put one person in a factory of thousands of people, and for negative or good, they can affect the entire feeling of that entire factory. Either way, you put a totally uplifting person in there, it can uplift the entire factory. You put a major downer person, thousands of people could be affected. And I actually looked at myself and I said, yep, that's my downline. And they've been affected. And you know how I knew? Because volume was dropping. And you know what that means? People are using the product. And that was the whole motive is to get the product in people's hands. And so I'm kind of vulnerable right now, but I'm just spilling all out there to say, don't forget the most important motive is health and healing. And that is what matters. And it seriously duplicates. I mean, I'm not even going to tell you how much volume we dropped. But when I think about it, I think, holy, holy cow, this is crazy that our motive shifted and people stopped using the product as a result. And so, anyway, amen to everything that's been said. And I'm sorry that I was crying, but I'm going to get off this call and I'll probably start bawling.
No, Japin, you've ended the call perfectly, and we have more hands raised. We're over time already, and so I'm going to go ahead and end the call. But I think that, it's interesting, Japin, because I was actually expecting, I didn't know what I was expecting. I actually just was asking because I didn't know the answers necessarily. But the more you spoke, the more I realized that you're correct, that the motive has to be the health and healing of others. And when we talk about lifting and liberating, I mean, it's this a concept, this idea of empowering and blessing other people's lives. And I think, and love does need to be the motive. And one thing I will say is that, I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the call that I had a pretty life-changing experience at convention. And my motive shifted to where I needed to start thinking bigger, and in particular the vision of having 1,000 diamonds on the team and what that would do for the world and how that would bless people. And it's interesting because when I started contemplating that how to do this, I'm grateful for everybody on this call who have answered a lot of my questions. And that is that you do it through creating a team motivated by love and service and lifting and helping and liberating others. And we do that by putting the product in the homes, by teaching people and empowering them to use the products and making that our focus, and then continually leading out of love. I mean, I guess that's the message of the call. And I appreciate all of you for participating in that and teaching all of us these powerful principles. We'll talk to everybody next week.